Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Warning: this video may contain explicit descriptions of drug use, violence, and sexual situations. Viewer discretion is advised as this content may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hello and welcome to this video. We are making our way through The Kingdom of Fear by Hunter S. Thompson. This is going pretty smoothly as far as the videos go. Now, the content within the book's been kind of rough lately, but you know. So, put your seatbelts on, grab your popcorn, and let's go.
Bush. They are the same ones who wanted to have Muhammad Ali locked up for refusing to kill gooks. They speak for all that is cruel and stupid and vicious in the American character.
That's interesting. Even in, that just shows you his generation he grew up in. Even referring to the Vietnamese as good guys, he uses a derogatory slander for them. Though he does that a lot, and I don't think he means it. I think he just is using it to highlight the fact that it is, you know, slanderous. That's the way rich white people think of the Vietnamese, or at least during, you know, the Vietnam War. And I think he's just putting it there to remind us, and him being a rich white person kind of helps reinforce that.
They are the racists and hate mongers among us. They are the Ku Klux Klan. I pissed down the throats of these Nazis. And I am too old to worry about whether they like it or not. Fuck them.
They probably do like it, you know. People with extremist views like that tend to have kinks that they want to keep in their closets.
Hunter S. Thompson, 2002. Part 2. Politics is the art of controlling your environment. A quote.
Well, yeah, that's kind of how that works.
Quote from Edward Abbey. I know my own nation best. That's why I despise it the most. And I know and love my own people, too. The swine. I'm a patriot. A dangerous man.
And Thompson was a patriot in truest sense of the word. Not in the political left or the political right's definition of it, but in the truest sense of the word, that you don't trust any. You have the highest hopes for everybody. You don't trust anybody. And you understand that changes are going to happen. They're not going to be permanent, but change is going to be permanent. It's just, the changes aren't, but change is. To quote one very good drummer from a very good band.
Running for sheriff. Aspen, 1970.
Now this is a wild story.
On Wednesday night, 7 days before the 1970 sheriff's election, we hunkered down at Owl Farm and sealed the place off. From the road, the house looked stone dark. The driveway was blocked at one end of the circle by Noonan's Jeep and at the other end by a blue Chevy van with Wisconsin plates. The only possible approach was on foot. You could park on the road, climb a short hill, and cross the long front yard in the glare of a huge floodlight. Or come creeping down from behind off either one of the two mesas that separate the house from the 5 million acre White River National Forest.
I bet you that's beautiful. Just, I mean, conjure up the mesas behind the house, big yard, Colorado. Yeah, that's probably very, very beautiful.
But only a fool or a lunatic would have tried to approach the place quietly from any direction at all. Because the house was a virtual fortress. surrounded by armed crazies.
Yeah, and I guess Thompson having crazies as friends kind of pays off sometimes, you know?
Somewhere off to the left, in a dry irrigation ditch about 200 yards beyond the volleyball court, was Big Ed Bastian, a one-time basketball star at the University of Iowa, limping around in the frozen darkness with a 12-gauge pump shotgun, a portable spotlight, and a .38 special tucked into his belt. Big Ed, our long-suffering campaign coordinator.
Yeah, campaign coordinator and watchman.
Was growing progressively weaker from the ravages of his new macrobiotic diet. On top of that, he had recently snapped one of the bones in his left foot while forcing his legs into the lotus position.
Ow, ow, just ow. I've had broken toes, but I couldn't imagine having a whole foot broken. Unless a broken toe counts as broken foot, I don't know. That's a triviality, I guess.
And now he was wearing a cast. The temperature at midnight was 12 above zero and sinking fast. There was no moon. On the other side of the house, Mike Solheim, my campaign manager, was patrolling the western perimeter with a double-barreled 12-gauge Beretta and a .357 Colt Python Magnum.
Yeah, I think they're kind of getting ready for something.
We suspected that Solheim was probably turning on very heavily out there, caving into the Vietnam Century madness, and we were vaguely concerned that he might get wiggy and blow Bastian's head off if they happened to cross paths in the darkness.
Yeah, you know, shit happens.
But they weren't moving around much despite the bitter cold. From the spots they'd selected, they were both perfectly positioned to deal not only with the threat from the rear or either side of the house, but also to catch anyone approaching from the front in a deadly crossfire of double-aught buckshot, thus tripling the terror for any poor bastard coming up from the road and straight into the muzzle of Teddy Ewer's .30-30.
30-30 shotguns, yeah. Yeah, trespassing at that point could be a bloodbath.
Teddy, a wild young biker with hair hanging down to his waist, had driven out from Madison to have some fun with the Freak Power Sheriff's campaign, and he'd arrived just in time to get himself drafted into the totally humorless role of 24-hour bodyguard.
You know, that could have been interesting. 1970. You know, Hunter S. Thompson being one of the czars of drug culture and getting to be his bodyguard. That would be interesting.
Now, with the original concept of the campaign long gone and forgotten in this frenzy of violence, he found himself doing dead serious guard duty behind a big window in the darkened living room, perched in the catbird seat with a rifle in his hands and a fine commanding view of anything that could possibly happen within 100 yards of the front porch. He couldn't see Solheim or Bastian, but he knew they were out there, and he knew that all three of them would have to start shooting if the things we'd been warned about suddenly began happening.
Yeah, this is also a fairly violent time. Kind of like now. We have pockets of criminal activity on both sides of the political fences.
The word had come that afternoon from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI, and the word was extremely grim. Tonight, sometime between dusk on Wednesday and dawn on Thursday, Mr. Thompson, the Freak Power candidate for sheriff, was going to be killed. This intelligence had come from what the CBI investigator described as an extremely reliable informant.
Yeah, I imagine stuff like that, especially Hunter S. Thompson with the friends and enemies he had made by 1970, probably took this extremely, extremely serious.
A person they had every good reason to believe because he, or maybe she, we weren't told, had always been right in the past. The informant had not been able to learn the identity of the assassins, the CBI man told us, nor had she been able to learn what means or methods they planned to use on this job. Shooting was, of course, the most logical thing to expect, he said. Maybe an ambush at some lonely spot on the road between Aspen and Woody Creek, and if that failed, well, it was widely known that the candidate lived in a dangerously isolated house far out in the boondocks, so perhaps they would strike out there by fire.
Yeah, that had to have been an interesting time. I kind of glad that I never experienced anything quite that intense. I've had some intense moments in my life, but then again, I won't ever run for public office, but that's just me. Yeah, that had to be some intense feelings.
Or dynamite. Indeed. Dynamite. RDX type, 90% nitroglycerin. 210 sticks of it had been stolen just a few days earlier from an Aspen Ski Corp cache on Ajax Mountain.
That's not good.
According to a report from the Ski Corp. And the thieves left a note saying, "This stolen dynamite will only be used if Hunter Thompson is elected sheriff of Aspen." The note was signed SDS.
Huh. There's no telling.
Right. Some ignorant dingbat actually signed the note SDS. The CBI man hadn't smiled when we laughed at the tale. He quickly unfolded another sheet of notes and told us that his reliable informant had also told him that half the town was about to be destroyed by dynamite. The county courthouse, meaning the sheriff's office, City Hall, the police station, the Hotel Jerome, our campaign headquarters.
Yeah, I imagine that was very chaotic for both local and state level law enforcement during that particular election season. Election season.
And the Wheeler Opera House, where Joe Edwards and Dwight Shellman, our attorneys, had their offices. Only a cop's brain could have churned up that mix of silly bullshit. And although we never doubted that, we also understood that the same warped mentality might also be capable of running that kind of twisted act all the way out to its brutally illogical extreme.
Yeah, that's also a possibility.
It made perfect sense, we felt, to assume that anybody stupid enough to spread these crudely conceived rumors was also stupid enough to try to justify them by actually dynamiting something.
Yeah, that's the problem with humans.
At that point in the campaign, it was still a three-way race between me, the incumbent Democratic sheriff, and the veteran undersheriff who'd resigned just in time to win the GOP primary over the former city police chief and emerge as a strong challenger to his former boss, first-term Sheriff Carol Whitmire, a devious, half-bright small-town cop whose 4 years in office had earned him a reservoir of contempt and neo-public loathing on the part of the local bar association.
Well, that's good to see that he has qualifications.
The district attorney, his own undersheriff, and former deputies, the entire city of Aspen police force, and everybody else unlucky enough to have had any dealings with him.
So, yeah, that's interesting. That's, but that's how it goes in politics. I know we've had similar things like that happen here in this area at our local political level. So, it's kind of crazy. We'll go ahead and take a pause here and call this video good. So until next time, take care. Be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?